How we doing, ladies and gentlemen? So this will be the last video via potato cam. I've decided to take YouTube seriously and bought a DSLR camera and bought a cousin that's, going to operate said camera and be part of the channel. But I spent all weekend not working on my truck and cleaning up this pigsty and painting shelves and getting it ready to be more presentable. But I decided to make my first attempt at the tablet pocket. I was going to build a vacuum former and use ABS plastic, and I may still do that. But first, since I have the experience in fiberglass, I'm going to go ahead and try to make a fiberglass pocket. So here's what we got so far. Under this tape, there's a tablet. See if I can get this up without giving you all a stroke. There's a tablet in there. Tablet is wrapped with saran wrap several times, and then taped to this handy piece of glass. It's not polycarbonate, it's like straight up glass. I'm going to just do a vacuumless wet pour, air dry. Once I get it over here, I'm actually going to use a piece of the packaging that it came in to keep the fiberglass down around that. I was going to hot glue it, but I did a little test, because this is foam. Did a little test, and it doesn't appear that the resin's going to eat this foam, so that'll work out a little better for me. And if not, then I'll just basically just run a thin seam of hot glue around here to tack it in. Usually I would do this with felt and then put fiberglass on the back of it, but I really don't want it to be that thick and don't really want to do that much work to it for something so simple. So I'll get back with you when I've made some progress. Okay, just a side note. You have two basic types of fiberglass backing. You have what's called fiberglass cloth, and then what's called fiberglass mat. This is just a chopped strand mat. This is actually a woven fiberglass cloth. They have different purposes. For me personally, I like to use this behind things. It's got a little more tensile strength because it's woven, but it is problematic in some instances. Like, say for instance right here, where you want to wrap around this, it does like any cloth would do. It's going to create wrinkles. As the resin gets in this and you brush this around, these fibers kind of start to separate a little bit, giving you the ability to get around things like that without creating the wrinkle. So I find the best way to do this without having like rollers and whatnot. They have these little rollers that pop holes in it, which wouldn't be great for this anyway, because I really don't want that resin to get through that tape and that saran wrap. But as you see, when the resin gets on the mat, and this is kind of different than the cloth, it actually looks like the mat goes away. Like if you use like a chip brush, it looks like the mat goes away. I do suggest using at least a little bit of a chip brush, because then you can use it to tell when the resin's hard without actually touching any of your work. But I'll give you an example. Like, you can see, like, it will pull the strands up and it will move them around. And when you first start messing with it, it kind of makes it look like you've just completely washed them away, when in reality that's not the case. But I like to put something like this tape behind it, so that like this for instance, I know I want to get the final cut panel when I trim all of this off to be the size of this tape. So I need to make sure I have resin down to my tape. So normally you would apply a vacuum under double-sided tape down saran wrap or plastic wrap to more thoroughly distributes the resin and gets rid of the extra resin that you don't need. Like if you're trying to make lightweight parts, you really want to do that. Like if you're doing carbon fiber stuff, you want to do that. You get more of a vacuum formed type finish, but with a stronger product that has a more consistent wall thickness. The reason I didn't do that here is because I literally have a tablet under it, and I don't really want to force the resin into said tablet that is protected by a layer of saran wrap and some tape. So, I mean, what I really should have done is make, you know, a reverse mold and then make a buck and do all of that. But the problem with that is, well, I'm lazy. And every time you make a mold, especially with fiberglass, you get shrinkage, which I'm actually counting on to hold the tablet in. What I wanted to do originally, and what I probably will end up doing for the finished piece, is building a vacuum former and using like 1/8 inch ABS plastic, maybe with like a carbon finish, like they make it that looks like carbon fiber, and just doing a pull for the entire dash insert. But I was just messing around in the garage, had some fiberglass, you know, make a video, maybe show somebody something they didn't know. So yeah, I'll come back to you in a couple of hours when we're, for lack of a better term, demolding this. With as humid as it is, it'll probably take it 2 or 3 hours to dry, so I don't feel like I want to sit here and wait. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the part where we see if it demolds and if we destroy the tablet, all kind of other fun stuff. Okay, so we learned that saran wrap is decent for demolding, and well, it doesn't appear to have eaten through it. So that's good. It's definitely still tacky. I may just leave the foam block on the back of it since that's where it wants to live now. I'm going to trim the fiberglass that's not saturated off before I try to pop this. Well, the tablet came out of the fiberglass unscathed, nice tight fit, sitting up there. It was a little floppy. I mean, it wasn't real bad, but I just felt like it needed to be a little stronger. So I trimmed the foam because it wanted to be a little stuck on the sides. So I need to make holes in the sides for the USB that hooks up to it and the power. And then I used some cloth, which, as I mentioned previously, is a little stronger, torsionally anyway. And I just laid another layer on the back. And what you do when you do the second layer, you want it to still be tacky. Ideally, you want it to still be wet. But as long as it's still tacky, it's fine. Go ahead and lay some more resin down before you put the cloth down. Then put the cloth over it, and I pretty much just use gloved hands to make sure it's squeezed in to get good penetration and all of that. And work your air out. You'll have to cut you a few little slots here and there to open it up to get the air out, and it helps to use those slots to bleed the excess resin out. So yeah, gonna let this sit. It's pretty well, like we have a air bubble there, and then like that's an air bubble, and that's an air bubble. But for what I'm doing, it's really not that relevant. I was really only trying to reinforce the back itself to keep it from bowing up, which I may have caused it to bow up. But I digress. It'll be fine. So this is about $60 worth of stuff from Home Depot. Like if you got it on Amazon, obviously it would be cheaper, or anywhere on the internet. But it was a fun little project, and you'll be seeing more of it, I'm sure.